On the second occasion that Kevin Beets sought assistance from his father Tony's reaction broke his son's heart and caused him to cry. Despite investing his life savings into his new enterprise, mining in the Yukon, a region known for its harsh but potentially rewarding landscape, is not an occupation for the faint of heart. Kevin Beets learned this the hard way when his operation encountered a string of setbacks. Equipment failures, flooding, and an interminable race against the clock thwarted Kevin's plans to strike it rich. But the harsh rejection of his father Tony Beets to assist him in his time of need added further emotional and practical hardship to Kevin's already difficult situation. Tony, Kevin's father and a seasoned and successful miner, gave him a leg up by lending him equipment and a piece of property near Scribner Creek. Despite these advantages, Kevin still wanted to start his own mining enterprise. What Kevin failed to foresee, though, was the rapidity with which a succession of catastrophic failures would bring his operation to its knees. He was aware that his success would hinge on his capacity to surmount the same challenges that Tony had encountered during his own ascent to fame. Kevin had a mining season that was full of problems from the start. Despite its rich potential, the 44-acre claim at Scribner Creek turned out to be a massive undertaking. The 11-acre Lynx Cut was identified as the most promising area within this plot, but its potential was buried beneath layers of frozen ground. Extensive clearing, including the removal of overburden, had to be done in order to access the paid dirt below. This process was slow and laborious. Despite Kevin's lofty ambitions, things started to go wrong early on in his attempt to extract $1,000 per ounce by season's end. Everything went horribly wrong for the mining crew due to old, broken equipment, the continual mechanical breakdowns, and the brutal Yukon conditions. As the weeks went by, Kevin had to confront the fact that his operation wasn't progressing as planned, as the aging machinery, notably the 30-year-old Caterpillar D10 dozer, which was crucial for clearing overburden and cutting through frozen ground, began to fail. Foreman Brennan, who was in charge of the Lynx Cut, became more and more irritated. When Kevin found out that the dozer's gearbox had utterly failed, with bolts shattered and oil spilling out, the situation became much more severe. The D10 was no longer functioning, and the dozer was rendered inoperable. The crew's morale took a nosedive, and Kevin's operation ground to a halt. To make matters worse, fixing the dozer cost an outrageous $60,000. As time ran out and pressure increased, Kevin knew he had to do something about Tony's refusal to lend him money. Tony, as one of the region's most respected and successful miners, had built his empire from the bottom up, relying only on his own ingenuity and perseverance. Kevin knew his father had the resources to lend a hand, but he was also aware that Tony's guiding principle was independence. Tony had never been one to give out handouts, and he had always held the belief that the mining industry required its employees to learn to be self-reliant. Nevertheless, Kevin couldn't help but wish that his father would show some mercy and be willing to assist out in a time of need. Tony's reaction was unfeeling and rude when Kevin described the scenario, detailing the D10's total failure and the gearbox problem. This response served as a sobering reminder of the harsh realities of life in the Yukon for Kevin. It went beyond being a rejection. It was a test of one's ability to endure and survive on one's own, regardless of family connections or legacy. Tony saw mining as a test of this very trait. Although Tony's success may have been based on his beliefs, Kevin found it difficult to accept his father's decline was a devastating setback. Father-son relationships are already complicated, so when the father, who had amassed a mining empire, refused to assist his son, it was a difficult lesson in tough love. The emotional toll of helping was more than just a setback in terms of equipment, it was a gut punch. Kevin, who had been taught to be strong and composed, broke down into tears as he absorbed Tony's words. All of his hard work, money, and pressure from the season's goals came crashing down on him in that one moment. No one had any sympathy or leeway for him, just the harsh practical reality of the industry. Kevin's unfaltering resolve in the face of hardship was on full display when, despite his father's rejection, he kept his resolve and said, "We're just going to keep plugging away." As a result, his team persisted in their efforts, albeit with a temporary fix. An excavator with a ripper attachment designed for drainage ditches, but it was much less effective than the dozer, especially when working with the frozen permafrost of the Yukon. The strain on the crew was clear as anger and exhaustion built up. Despite this, Kevin's determination remained unwavering, and he proclaimed, "Whatever we have to do to keep production running, we'll do." The harsh reality of the mining industry was brought to light by the challenges Kevin faced. Rather than being about family ties or legacy, it was about resourcefulness, determination, and the ability to overcome adversity. Tony's refusal to help may have seemed harsh, but it served as a reminder that mining in the Yukon is about mental fortitude, not equipment and resources. This lesson was passed down from a father to his son. Ultimately, Tony's action reflected his fundamental conviction in self-reliance. It wasn't an attempt at punishment, rather, it was a lesson in the importance of standing on one's own 2 feet. Even if you're the offspring of a seasoned miner or a complete rookie to the profession, you still have to confront the harsh fact that Tony had learned the hard way in the Yukon. There are no guarantees, no handouts, and no easy ways to succeed. This lesson was not without its consequences, but it has only served to strengthen his resolve to succeed as the season continues. Whether or not he manages to turn things around is an open question, but one thing is certain: Kevin's journey is far from over. He may have begun the season expecting his father to assist, but Tony's rejection has shown him that in the mining world, success is something earned through grit, resourcefulness, and the will to keep going even when it gets tough. Tough love could be the key that unlocks Kevin's potential and helps him become the miner he can be. In the harsh Yukon, being your own boss is the only way to make it. In his denial, Tony reflects on the lessons he had to learn while Tony had a tough upbringing as a young man starting out in the mining industry. He had to solve problems as they came and face setbacks without expecting anyone to bail him out. This shaped Tony into the successful businessman and miner he is today. Unfortunately, he refused to help Kevin. Like all miners, had to learn to rely on his own resourcefulness. It wasn't enough to inherit equipment or land from his father. He had to prove he could manage those resources and overcome the challenges of the land. Success or failure, it was up to Kevin to figure out how to move forward in the world of mining. The greatest lessons in life are often learned from the toughest challenges. Tony was encouraging his son to develop the same kind of resilience. Tony Beets' denial of assistance, insisting that Kevin deal with his own issues and overcome his own obstacles, was not an act of abandonment toward his son, but rather a demonstration of his strong conviction in the value of independence. Kevin will remember his father's tough love approach and the lessons he learned from it as he faces the challenges of mining in the Yukon. Tony was teaching him that success is earned, not given. The road may be hard and setbacks may continue, but he will carry these lessons with him. In the end, Tony's refusal was the greatest gift he could have given his son, the gift of independence, leadership, and a deeper understanding of the mining industry. Kevin will become stronger, more resilient, and better equipped to navigate the complex mining world on his own terms. He now knows that being his own boss is the only way to succeed in the mining industry and in life. Tony Beets' insistence that Kevin figure out how to handle his own issues and overcome obstacles was not a rejection of his son, but rather an expression of his strong belief in the value of independence. One of life's most crucial lessons was being taught to him by Tony.